So I'm talking today about something that's a little bit out of my comfort zone, but this is a question that was sent to me once again by another reader for my Q&A segment, and I figured I'd go ahead and answer it in a video blog. One of my readers sent me the question, how do you get inside the head of a villain? And she said she's tried everything from, trying to get inside their perspective to, like, writing journal entries, which, by the way, fantastic idea. I've never even thought about that before. And basically, this girl just wants to know, how do you, really make this villain evil? First off, I have ever had a villain in one of my books. If you look at me, I'm pretty much, the most unvillainous person ever. I'm wearing a headband, and I have, big curly hair, and I wear pink shirts. I don't know. I'm not very villainous. And none of my stories have really necessarily had a villain, at least in the ones that I've published. There may be some bad characters that you're not necessarily rooting for, but I've never had, an outright villain before. So, but, that being said, I do think I can still sort of answer this question for you, hopefully give you some advice and a fresh perspective. The first thing that I would say is if you're writing a story with a villain, and I'm just going to assume that we're talking about human villains, because I don't write sci-fi, so even though you might write science fiction, your villain might be like a dragon or a giant snake or frog or something like that. We're just going to assume that we're talking about humans for now. The first thing I would remember is that every villain is still a person deep down inside. And I think that the thing that makes villains evil is that they have the same human characteristics that all of us have, and they just have them intensify. So we're all selfish to some degree, but villains are, especially selfish. We're all cranky, I guess you could say, but villains are just especially irritable. We're all have that tendency to want to fight with people and to want to hurt people, and villains just have that sort of, intensified, like I said. So I guess that you can sort of tap into your own feelings in a lot of ways when you're writing about villains, and you can just imagine someone feeling the same things you're feeling on a really deep, intense level. So if you're disappointed about something, imagine how someone who's just totally evil, totally wicked, would take that same disappointment and how they would make that, to an extreme. So I think that's one really good way to develop villains' characters is by tapping into your own sinful qualities as a human being, and then to just intensify them and make them just bigger than life. And these people aren't just greedy, they're enormously greedy. They're not just angry, they're enormously angry. So it's a really great way to think of villains. I guess another thing that I would say is that villains should really set off your main character. So whatever your main character's virtues are, I sort of feel like those should be the biggest downfalls of your villain. They really have to be constantly set apart from each other. So as a reader, I'm reading about this person who's really heroic and really humble and who might be scared of different things. And so I want a villain who's going to be non-heroic, totally prideful, not scared of anything. I want them to be constantly clashing and at odds with each other and be constantly setting each other off. I think is a really great way to make that villain really stand out. As far as getting into a villain's head, at the end of the day, you're writing not about the villain, but about the main character. So you really want to focus on staying in your main character's head. But, like I said, I would just tap into your own sinful qualities and sort of try to imagine that as being what drives your villain, and then sort of show how those qualities play out in your main character's life. How dealing with that villain, that antagonist, makes the main character into a stronger, better, more moral person at the end of the story. I think is what you should really be focusing on, even as you develop your villain. So, I know I'm probably not the best person to give advice on that, but hopefully I said something that'll help you as you write your stories. I'd love to hear what your advice is. If you've written a story that has a villain in it, you're probably much better qualified to talk about it than I am. So if you have any advice, I would love to hear you share it, and make your villain villainous, because that's the most interesting, type that there is, as opposed to the headband wearing ones. Anyway, now I'm getting awkward, so I'm just going to stop. And if you have any more questions, send them to me, and I will answer them for you in the future vlog entry.